was a mistake!
The night was quiet enough to hear the hum of the refrigerator. Then she hit send, and everything went silent. The October cold seeped through the thin walls of the rental house like an unwelcome guest, settling into corners the struggling heater couldn't reach. Elena Marin sat at the kitchen table, a second-hand relic with one wobbly leg shimmed with folded cardboard, surrounded by bills arranged in order of urgency, past due, final notice, disconnection warning. The fluorescent light overhead flickered intermittently, casting shadows that made the numbers swim before her tired eyes. From the bedroom down the hall she could hear Mila's laboured breathing, punctuated by the occasional cough that made Elena's chest tighten with worry. 4 years old and burning with fever for the third night in a row. The paediatrician had prescribed antibiotics Eleanor couldn't afford until Ryan sent the child support he'd promised 3 months ago. Ryan Cole, her ex, Mila's father, a man whose promises had the lifespan of mayflies. Elena picked up her phone, the screen brightness harsh against the dimness of the kitchen. Her thumbs hovered over the keyboard as rage and desperation warred inside her. She'd texted him 17 times this week. 17 messages met with silence. Or worse, those infuriating red receipts that confirmed he was deliberately ignoring them. The radiator in the corner clanked and groaned, fighting its losing battle. Elena pulled her cardigan tighter and started typing, exhaustion making her reckless. Ryan, Mila needs medicine. Rent's due tomorrow. You promised $1,200 this week. Where is it? She hit send. Then immediately followed with another message, her fingers moving faster than her judgment. I know you got that money from the Romano job. Don't make me tell your boss you're holding out. Pay what you owe or I go directly to Romano myself. An empty threat. Eleanor knew nothing about Ryan's work beyond the name he'd drunkenly mentioned during their last screaming match 6 weeks ago. Something about finally hitting the big time, working for serious people named Romano. Just another broken promise from a man who collected them like stamps. She set the phone down and pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes, willing away the headache that had taken up permanent residence there. The house settled around her with familiar creaks. The hum of the refrigerator, Mila's shallow breathing from down the hall. The distant sound of traffic on the main road 3 blocks away. Normal. Everything was normal. Then her phone buzzed. Elena's heart leapt as she fumbled for it, nearly knocking over her cold coffee. But instead of Ryan's usual litany of excuses, 3 words appeared on her screen from an unknown number. Who is this? She stared at the message, confusion cutting through her anger. Wrong number? But how? Then she noticed the recipient field, and her stomach dropped. In her exhaustion, her fury-blind typing, she hadn't selected Ryan's contact. She'd tapped someone else entirely, a number she didn't recognize. Someone whose contact information she must have accidentally saved at some point. Elena's fingers trembled as she quickly typed back, "Sorry, wrong person, please ignore." The response was immediate, demanding. What Romano job? Ice flooded her veins. She should have put the phone down, should have turned it off, should have done anything except respond. But exhaustion and stress had stripped away her better judgment like paint from old wood. Nothing. My ex mentioned working for someone with that name. Mistake. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Each pulse felt like a countdown. Your name. Now. The tone made her breath catch. This wasn't curiosity. This was command. Authority wrapped in threat. This was just a mix-up. I'm sorry to bother you. Address, not a question. a demand that made her skin prickle with primitive warning. Eleanor set the phone down on the table without responding, her hands suddenly shaking. Before we begin, click subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments section where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's get into the story. Outside, the neighborhood was silent. Halloween decorations still hung on porches 2 houses down. A skeleton that swayed in the autumn breeze, its hollow eyes seeming to watch her window. The streetlight on the corner cast a yellow pool of light onto wet pavement, reflecting nothing but emptiness. She moved to check on Mila, needing the comfort of her daughter's presence. Mila lay curled around her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, her cheeks flushed with fever, but her breathing finally steady. Elena brushed damp curls from the child's forehead, adjusted her unicorn nightlight, and tried to convince herself that everything was fine. She was just paranoid, stressed. A wrong number was just a wrong number. Her phone buzzed again, then again, and again. Against every instinct, Eleanor returned to the kitchen and looked at the screen. The messages stared back at her like accusations. "I already know who you are, Eleanor Maren." Her full name. She hadn't given her full name. 734 Maple Street. The blue house with the broken porch light. Her address. Perfect, exact, down to the detail that she'd been too exhausted to fix. "Your daughter's fever broke an hour ago. Mila, isn't it?" The phone slipped from Elena's suddenly nerveless fingers, clattering against the table. How could they possibly know? About Mila, about her illness, the timing. She lunged for the window, pulling back the faded curtain with trembling hands. The street was empty, just parked cars and dead leaves skittering across asphalt. The skeleton decoration still swayed in the breeze. Everything looked normal. Then she saw it. A black SUV, sleek, expensive, gleaming despite the dim light, rolled slowly around the corner. Its headlights were off, but Elena could see the silhouette of the driver, the solid shape of another figure in the passenger seat. The vehicle stopped directly across from her house, engine running, exhaust forming ghostly tendrils in the cold air. Before she could process what she was seeing, a second SUV appeared from the opposite direction. Then a third. Within 2 minutes, 5 identical black vehicles had surrounded her block, positioning themselves with military precision at every corner, every exit. Elena's phone buzzed in her hand. Coming in, not a question, not a threat, a statement of fact. She backed away from the window, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. The heater groaned. The refrigerator hummed. Mila coughed once in her sleep. All the normal sounds of her life continued as if the world hadn't just tilted sideways. She should call 911, but what would she say? That expensive cars were legally parked on a public street? That someone who knew her name and address was coming to her door? That she was afraid of messages on her phone? Footsteps echoed on her front walkway. Heavy, measured, multiple sets. Eleanor moved instinctively toward Mila's room, but stopped. Where would they go? The house had no back exit. They were on a corner lot with neighbors too far away to reach before the footsteps stopped at her door. No knock came. Instead, the absolute silence that followed was somehow worse than any sound. She could feel them waiting. Patient, certain. Her phone lit up one more time. "Open the door, Eleanor. I'm not here to hurt you or Mila, but we need to talk about Ryan Cole. Ryan, not her ex. Not Mike or Michael or any nickname. His full name, formal and complete, as if spoken by someone who had it written in a file somewhere. Against every screaming instinct, Eleanor found herself walking toward the front door, not because she was brave, not because she had a plan, but because somehow she knew, with the terrible certainty of prey recognizing a predator, that whatever waited on the other side wasn't something she could hide from. The door had 3 locks, a deadbolt she'd installed herself, a chain lock that felt suddenly flimsy, and the regular handle lock that might as well have been made of paper. Her hand hovered over them, trembling. One turn, and she would come face to face with whoever she'd accidentally summoned. One turn, and everything would change. She unlocked the door. The porch light was broken, just like they'd said, so the man standing there was backlit by the street lamp, his face in shadow while hers was illuminated by the harsh kitchen fluorescence behind her. Eleanor could see only the outline of broad shoulders in an impeccably tailored suit, the subtle gleam of an expensive watch catching the light, the controlled stillness of someone who never had to rush because the world waited for him. Behind him stood 2 more men, positioned like bookends, their hands clasped in front of them, their eyes constantly moving, cataloguing, assessing. One of them spoke quietly into an earpiece. The man in front stepped forward just enough for the light to catch his features, and Eleanor's breath stopped. He was younger than she'd expected, mid-30s maybe, with sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw darkened by stubble. But it was his eyes that made her blood run cold, dark, intense, calculating. Eyes that saw everything and forgave nothing. "Elena Marin," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards. Not a question, a confirmation. "We need to discuss your relationship with Ryan Cole." Eleanor's grip tightened on the doorframe, her knees threatening to buckle. "Who are you?" His lips curved into something too predatory to be called a smile. "My name is Dante Romano, and your ex-boyfriend has stolen something extremely valuable from me." The world tilted. Dante Romano. Not an employee, not a contractor, the man himself. The name Ryan had dropped so carelessly. The name she'd just used as a threat in a text message. The wrong number hadn't just been wrong. It had been catastrophically, perfectly, impossibly exact. Eleanor tried to close the door, a reflexive, futile gesture of denial. Dante's hand shot out, palm flat against the wood, stopping it with effortless strength, not forcing it open, just preventing her retreat. "That would be unwise," he said quietly, his gaze flicking past her into the house. "Your daughter is sleeping. Let's keep it that way, shall we?" The mention of Mila from his lips made something primal surge through Eleanor. "Don't you dare!" "I'm not here to threaten a child, Mrs. Marin." His voice carried a note of offense, as if the suggestion insulted him. "But I am here to explain why you and your daughter are in danger, whether you want to hear it or not." "I don't know anything about what Ryan did," Elena whispered, hating the tremor in her voice. "We've been separated for almost a year. He barely sees Mila. I don't know anything." Dante's dark eyes searched hers, looking for lies. "And yet you knew enough to mention my name, to threaten him with it." "It was just something he said once. I was desperate. The child support. He owes us money. And I—" Her voice broke. "I was bluffing." Something shifted in his expression, not softening, but recalculating, reassessing. One of the men behind him received a call, murmured something in Italian, too quick for Elena to catch. Dante listened without turning, then looked back at her. "May I come in?" he asked, though they both knew it wasn't really a question. "Unless you'd prefer to have this conversation where your neighbors might overhear." As if summoned by his words, a door opened 3 houses down. Mr. Patterson, the retired cop who still acted like he was on duty, stepped onto his porch, his hand moving instinctively to his hip, where his service weapon used to rest. Dante turned slightly, and Elena watched in stunned silence as his entire demeanor transformed. The predator vanished, replaced by a charming businessman who offered Mr. Patterson a polite wave. "Evening, sir. Sorry for the late visit. Work emergency. You know how it is." Mr. Patterson's eyes narrowed, taking in the expensive suit, the black SUVs, the men who looked like Secret Service agents. "Elena okay?" She forced words through her constricted throat. "Fine, Mr. P. It's fine." He didn't look convinced, but after a long moment, he nodded and retreated inside. The porch light stayed on, though, watching. "Office emergency," Elena said flatly when they were alone again. "Is that what you call this? Better than your ex stole from me and now you're involved in a Mafia war, don't you think?" Dante replied, his voice low. "Now, may I come in? Because what I have to say isn't something you want your entire neighborhood to hear." Elena stepped back, allowing him into her small house. His presence immediately seemed to consume all the oxygen, as if the walls themselves shrank to accommodate him. The kitchen that had felt cramped before now felt suffocating. "Anton will ensure we have privacy," Dante said, nodding to one of the men, who took position just outside her door. The other man followed Dante inside, positioning himself near the window with a clear view of the street. Elena hugged herself, suddenly conscious of her old cardigan, her unbrushed hair, the shabby furniture and stacks of bills visible on every surface. Dante's eyes swept the room, taking in the details. Mila's drawings stuck to the refrigerator with alphabet magnets. The basket of unfolded laundry, the medical bills stacked beside the unpaid rent notices. His expression remained unreadable. "Tell me what Ryan took," Eleanor demanded, trying to reclaim some control in a situation spiraling beyond her grasp. "And why you think I would know anything about it." Dante unbuttoned his suit jacket, a casual gesture that nonetheless made Elena acutely aware of the gun she was certain he carried, and met her eyes with unsettling directness. "Ryan Cole didn't just take money from me, Elena. He took information that could get people killed." He paused, letting that sink in. "Including, potentially, his own daughter." The room seemed to tilt. "Mila has nothing to do with this." "I'm afraid that's where you're wrong," Dante said, his voice carrying a weight that made her blood run cold. "The moment Ryan decided to betray me, everyone connected to him became involved, whether they wanted to be or not." He moved to the window, peering through the blinds at the convoy of black SUVs that surrounded her street like a noose. "Ryan worked for me for 3 years. Nothing significant. Running numbers, making deliveries. He wasn't important enough to know much." He turned back to face her. "Until 6 weeks ago, when he was tasked with delivering a flash drive containing sensitive information." "And he stole it," Eleanor finished, the pieces falling into place. "Not just stole it, made copies, started shopping it around to my competitors." Dante's jaw tightened. "Information that could dismantle operations I've spent decades building. That could get my people arrested. Or killed." Eleanor rubbed her temples, exhaustion washing over her in waves. "That sounds exactly like something Ryan would do. Always looking for the easy score." She looked up at him. "But I haven't seen or heard from him in weeks, except for texts asking for more time on the child support. Whatever he took, whatever he's doing with it, I'm not part of it." Dante crossed the room and picked up a framed photo from her bookshelf. It showed Elena and Mila at the park last summer, both of them laughing, Mila's face smeared with ice cream. His fingers traced the edge of the frame with unexpected gentleness. "You have a beautiful daughter," he said quietly. "She has your smile." A chill ran through Elena at his words, at the way he studied Mila's image. "Please don't." "I'm not threatening her, Elena." He set the photo down carefully. "I'm explaining why you're already involved, whether you chose to be or not. The information Ryan stole doesn't just compromise me, it compromises people who make me look like a saint by comparison." He sat down in the armchair across from her, leaning forward. "Right now, there are at least 3 other organizations hunting for him, and by extension, for anyone who might lead them to him." "I told you, I don't know where he is." "I believe you." His response surprised her. "But they won't, and they won't ask as politely as I am." A hysterical laugh escaped her. "This is polite? Surrounding my building with armed men? Tracking my phone? Threatening me and my daughter?" "If I wanted to threaten you, you'd know it," he said, his tone matter-of-fact rather than menacing. "The cars outside aren't just to intimidate you. They're a security perimeter." Before Elena could respond, Anton's voice cut through from outside. "Boss, we've got movement. East side, 2 blocks out." Dante was on his feet instantly, his hand moving to the inside of his jacket. The other guard moved away from the window, positioning himself between Elena and the front door. "How many?" Dante asked, his voice cold and controlled. 3 vehicles. BMW sedans. Not ours." Dante's eyes locked on Elena. "Does Ryan drive a BMW?" "No. He drives a—" Her voice died as the realization hit her. "You said other organizations are looking for him? And they've found this address." Dante moved to the window, pulling the blinds aside just enough to look out. The streetlights illuminated his profile, sharp and deadly. They must have been monitoring Ryan's communications, same as I was. "Your text put up a flare for everyone watching." The color drained from Eleanor's face. "Oh, God, what have I done?" "What you're going to do," Dante said, turning to face her, "is exactly what I tell you. Anton, call Vincent. Tell him to bring the others around. We need to move her and the child now." "Wait. What? No, I'm not going anywhere." A sound cut through the night, sharp, distinctive, unmistakable. Gunfire. The front window exploded inward in a shower of glass. Eleanor screamed, dropping to the floor as bullets tore through her living room. The framed photos on the walls shattered. The lamp beside the couch sparked and died. Stuffing erupted from the cushions like snow. "Mila!" Eleanor scrambled toward the hallway on her hands and knees, but Dante caught her, pulling her back against the wall behind the kitchen counter. "Stay down," he commanded, his gun now in his hand. He returned fire through the broken window with controlled precision. "Anton! The girl!" The guard nodded and moved low and fast down the hallway toward Mila's room. More gunfire erupted from outside, Dante's men engaging with whoever had just turned her quiet residential street into a war zone. Elena could hear car doors slamming, shouts in multiple languages, the rapid staccato of automatic weapons. "This can't be happening," she whispered, her hands shaking so violently she could barely hold them together. "This can't be real." "It's very real," Dante said, ejecting his magazine and slamming in a fresh one with practiced efficiency. "And it's about to get worse. They're not here to talk, Elena. They're here to erase any connection Ryan has to the outside world." Anton emerged from the hallway, carrying a terrified Mila wrapped in her blanket. The little girl was crying, clutching Mr. Whiskers to her chest, her eyes wide with shock. "Mommy?" "I've got her," Anton said, shielding Mila with his body as he crouched beside Elena. Back door? Blocked, the other guard reported, his face appearing at the kitchen doorway. 2 men positioned there. We're pinned. Dante's expression darkened. He pulled out his phone, pressed a single button. Vincent, we need extraction now. They've got us surrounded. He paused, listening. I don't care what it takes. Punch through the eastern perimeter and get us out. 30 seconds. He ended the call and looked at Elena. For the first time since he'd appeared at her door, she saw something almost like regret in his eyes. I'm sorry, he said, but your old life just ended. Outside, tires squealed. More gunfire erupted, closer now. An explosion rocked the night. Something had caught fire down the street. Orange light flickered through the broken windows, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Eleanor reached for Mila, pulling her daughter tight against her chest. The child was sobbing, confused and terrified. Mommy, what's happening? I'm scared. I know, baby. I know. Just hold on to me, okay? Don't let go. Eleanor, Dante said, his voice cutting through the chaos. When I say move, you run for the back door with Anton. Don't look back. Don't hesitate. Vincent will have a vehicle waiting in the alley. Understand? She nodded, unable to form words. More of Dante's men poured through the front door, returning fire toward the street. One of them shouted something in Italian. Another responded. The coordination was military precise, deadly efficient. Boss, path is clear. 30 seconds. Dante grabbed Elena's arm, pulling her to her feet, while Anton kept Mila shielded. Now! Move! They ran through her small kitchen, past the table where she'd sent that fatal text just minutes ago, past the refrigerator covered in Mila's drawings, past the life she'd been desperately trying to hold together. The back door burst open ahead of them, and cool night air rushed in along with the smell of gunpowder and burning rubber. A black SUV idled in the alley, its back door already open. Vincent sat in the driver's seat, his face grim and focused. Anton climbed in first with Mila, then pulled Eleanor up after them. Dante followed, slamming the door shut even as bullets sparked off the vehicle's armored exterior. Go! 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 He shouted. Vincent didn't need to be told twice. The SUV lurched forward, tires screaming as they shot down the narrow alley. Behind them, Elena's house, her home, was silhouetted against flames. Someone had torched a car in her driveway. Smoke billowed into the night sky. She watched through the back window as everything she'd known disappeared into darkness and fire. Mila clung to her, sobbing into her shoulder. Mommy, where are we going? I want to go home. Eleanor held her daughter tighter, unable to answer, because she didn't know. The only thing she knew with terrible certainty was that Dante had been right. Her old life had just ended. They drove in silence through the dark streets, taking turns at random, doubling back, ensuring they weren't followed. The other SUVs from Dante's convoy had scattered, drawing pursuit away in different directions. Military tactics. Practiced. Efficient. Elena couldn't stop shaking, couldn't process what had just happened. 15 minutes ago, she'd been sitting at her kitchen table, worried about rent and medicine. Now she was fleeing through the night with her daughter, hunted by people she'd never met, protected by a man whose name she'd used so carelessly in a moment of desperate rage. One text message, that's all it had taken. One text message had summoned a war to her doorstep. Dante sat across from her in the spacious SUV interior, his phone pressed to his ear as he spoke in rapid Italian, giving orders, calling in resources, mobilizing an empire she'd only just realized existed. When he ended the call, he met her eyes. "They'll search what's left of your house tonight," he said. "They won't find anything useful, but they'll try. By morning, Every organization in this city will know that Ryan Cole's ex-girlfriend just became the most valuable piece on the board. Elena's voice came out barely above a whisper. What does that mean? It means, Dante said, his dark eyes holding hers with unsettling intensity, that you can't go back. Not to your house, not to your job, not to your life, because everyone will be watching, waiting for Ryan to contact you, waiting to use you and Mila as bait. So, what happens to us? Dante glanced at Mila, who had finally cried herself into an exhausted sleep against Eleanor's chest. Something softened in his expression, just for a moment. You come with me, he said, under my protection. It's the only way to keep you both alive. And if I say no? His smile was grim. Then I leave you at the nearest police station and you try to explain to them what just happened. How you accidentally texted a Mafia boss. How your house became a battlefield. How your ex stole from criminals and now they're hunting you. He paused. See how well that works out for you and Mila. Elena looked down at her sleeping daughter, at the soot on her pajamas, at the cut on her cheek from flying glass, at the innocence that had just been shattered by violence she could barely comprehend. She had no choice. She'd never had a choice. From the moment she'd hit send on that text, her fate had been sealed. Where are we going? She asked, her voice hollow. Dante settled back in his seat, his expression unreadable. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't reach you, and then, Mrs. Marin, you're going to help me find Ryan Cole. I told you! I don't know where he is! You will. His voice carried absolute certainty. Because I'm going to make him come to you. The SUV pulled onto a private road, winding through manicured grounds toward a sprawling estate that looked like something from a movie. Iron gates closed behind them with a resonant clang, the sound of a prison door, Elena thought. Or a fortress. As Vincent stopped the vehicle in front of massive marble steps, Elena saw figures moving in the shadows. More men, more guns, more of Dante Romano's world that she'd accidentally stumbled into. Anton opened the door, and cool night air rushed in. Elena climbed out carefully, cradling Mila against her shoulder. The little girl stirred, but didn't wake. Dante emerged from the other side, straightening his jacket despite the bullet holes that now marred the expensive fabric. He looked up at the mansion, his home, his kingdom, then back at Elena. Welcome to your new life, he said. And Elena realized, standing there in the darkness with her sleeping daughter and a Mafia boss who'd just saved their lives, that she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. The text message had started a war. But standing here, on the threshold of Dante Romano's world, Elena understood with chilling clarity that the war had only just begun. That's when she realized, Ryan doesn't have men like this. But Dante Romano does. And now, for better or worse, so does she. The mansion loomed before them like something from another world, all white stone and towering columns, windows glowing with warm light that seemed to mock the chaos they'd just escaped. Eleanor stood at the base of the marble steps, Mila's weight growing heavier in her arms, and wondered how a single text message had transported her from a crumbling rental house to this palace of wealth and danger. Come, Dante said, his tone brooking no argument as he ascended the steps. We don't have much time. Time for what? Eleanor asked, but she followed anyway. What choice did she have? The massive front doors opened before they reached them, revealing an elegant foyer that could have swallowed her entire house. Black and white marble floors stretched toward a sweeping staircase. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across walls adorned with art that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. A woman appeared from a side corridor, older, perhaps 60, with silver hair pulled into an efficient bun and sharp eyes that took in everything at once. She wore a simple black dress and moved with the quiet authority of someone who ran this enormous household. "Rosa," Dante said, his voice softening slightly. "We have guests. They'll need the East Wing. The child is sick. Make sure Dr. Varon is called immediately." Rosa's gaze moved to Mila, and her expression gentled. "Of course, Mr. Romano. I'll prepare rooms and have something warm brought up." She looked at Eleanor with something that might have been sympathy. "You've had a difficult night, dear. Come with me." "No," Dante said, his hand catching Elena's arm gently but firmly. "First, we talk. Rosa, take the child." Panic flared in Elena's chest. "Absolutely not. She stays with me." "Mrs. Maran," Dante said, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Your daughter needs rest, medical attention, and to be away from the conversation we're about to have. Rosa has raised 3 children of her own and kept this household running for 20 years. Mila will be safe with her." "Mummy?" Mila stirred, her voice small and frightened. "Where are we?" Elena smoothed her daughter's hair, her throat tight. "We're somewhere safe, baby. This nice lady is going to take you to a room where you can sleep, okay? I'll be right there in a few minutes." "I don't want to go without you," Mila whimpered, clinging tighter. Rosa stepped forward, her voice warm and soothing. "What's your rabbit's name, sweetheart?" Mila peeked at her through tear-swollen eyes. "Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers looks very tired. I bet he'd love some warm milk and cookies. Would you like to help me make sure he gets some?" Rosa's smile was genuine, practiced in the art of comforting frightened children. Mila looked at Eleanor, uncertain. Eleanor forced a smile she didn't feel and nodded. "It's okay, baby. I promise I'll be right there." Reluctantly, Mila allowed Rosa to take her, though she looked back at Eleanor with every step until they disappeared up the grand staircase. The moment her daughter was out of sight, Eleanor rounded on Dante. "You said you wanted to talk. So talk. Tell me why my house is burning. Tell me why people are trying to kill us. Tell me what the hell Ryan stole that's worth all this." Dante's jaw tightened. He gestured toward a door off the foyer. "In here, not in the entrance hall where everyone can hear." He led her into what appeared to be a study, all dark wood and leather. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk that looked like it had witnessed decades of decisions, both legitimate and otherwise. The door closed with a solid click that sounded final. Dante moved to a crystal decanter on the sideboard and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. He held one out to her. "You look like you need this." "I need answers, not alcohol. Trust me, you'll want both." When she didn't take it, he set it on the desk and took a long drink from his own glass. "Ryan Cole worked for me for 3 years. Minor operations, deliveries, collections, basic accounting. Nothing significant." "I know. You said that already." "What I didn't tell you," Dante continued, his eyes locked on hers, "is what was on that flash drive he stole." He moved to his desk, unlocked a drawer, and pulled out a tablet. A few swipes brought up files, photographs, documents, spreadsheets. He turned it toward her. "Transaction records, communications, names. This data represents 15 years of carefully built operations across 3 states, shipping manifests, distribution networks, financial transfers." His voice was cold, controlled. "And the identities of every person who works for me or with me. If this information falls into the wrong hands, law enforcement, rival organizations, federal prosecutors, it doesn't just destroy my business, it gets people killed. Elena stared at the screen, the enormity of it washing over her. Ryan had all this? He made copies before I even realized it was missing, started shopping it to the highest bidder. Dante's fingers tightened around his glass. The Bratva, the triads, independent operators. Everyone wants it. And everyone thinks you know where he is. But I don't. I told you. I believe you. Dante set his glass down with a sharp click. But Sergei Petrov doesn't. Neither does Chen Wei or Marcus Volkov. They all monitored Ryan's communications, same as I did. The moment you sent that text, every organization in this city triangulated your location. Elena sank into one of the leather chairs, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. The men who attacked my house, Petrov's people, Russians, they don't negotiate, Elena. They don't take prisoners. They wanted you alive only long enough to tell them where Ryan is. After that, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Oh, God. Elena pressed her hands to her face. What have I done? What have I done to Mila? You made a mistake. A desperate mistake. Dante's voice softened fractionally. But it's done now. The only question is, what happens next? She looked up at him, this dangerous man who'd simultaneously destroyed and saved her life in the span of an hour. You said you want me to help you find Ryan. I do. And then what? You kill him? Dante's expression didn't change. I retrieve what he stole. What happens to him after that depends on how cooperative he is. He's Mila's father. He's a thief who put his own daughter in the crosshairs of a war. Dante's voice hardened. Don't romanticize him, Elena. Ryan made his choices. Now he has to face the consequences. Elena stood, anger cutting through her fear. And what about my choices? What about Mila's right to have a father? What about Mila's right to live? Dante countered, closing the distance between them. Because that's what's at stake here. Petrov won't stop, neither will the others. They'll hunt you, they'll use you, they'll hurt you and Mila to get to Ryan, or to get to me, now that you're under my protection. So I'm trapped. Is that what you're telling me? You're protected, Dante corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Elena's voice rose. Because from where I'm standing, I've just traded one prison for another. My house is gone. My life is gone. My daughter is traumatized. And you're telling me I have to help you hunt down her father so you can... What? Make him disappear? I'm telling you, Dante said, his voice low and dangerous, that you have two options. Stay here, under my protection, where you and Mila are safe. Or leave and see how long you survive on your own with every criminal organization in the city looking for you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Elena wanted to scream, wanted to run, wanted to wake up from this nightmare and find herself back at her kitchen table with nothing worse than overdue bills and an absent ex. But Mila's face swam before her eyes. Mila crying as bullets shattered their windows. Mila's cut cheek. Mila's terrified sobs. What do you need me to do? Elena asked finally, her voice hollow. Dante pulled out his phone and opened a messaging app. Send Ryan a text. Tell him Mila is sick. Tell him you need to see him urgently. Tell him whatever you think will make him come. He won't come just for that. He never has before. Then tell him you found something of his. Something the police would be very interested in. Dante's eyes glinted. Tell him you're scared, that men have been asking about him, that you need his help. You want me to lie. I want you to survive, and I want my property back." He held the phone out to her. "Choose, Elena, but choose quickly. Every minute you wait is another minute Petrov and the others get closer." Eleanor stared at the phone, then at the man holding it. This stranger who'd invaded her life, this criminal who was now the only thing standing between her daughter and death. She took the phone. Her fingers trembled as she typed, each word feeling like a betrayal, even though she knew Ryan deserved none of her loyalty. He'd abandoned them. He'd stolen from monsters. He'd put Mila in danger. But he was still Mila's father. "Ryan, we're in trouble." "Men came to the house asking about you. I'm scared. Mila is asking for you. Please, I need you to come. I found some of your things and I don't know what to do with them. Please respond." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Dante took the phone back, reading the message with approval. "Good. Now we wait. And if he doesn't respond, he will." Dante's certainty was absolute. "You're the mother of his child. You just told him you have leverage he can't afford to leave out there. He'll respond." As if summoned by his words, the phone buzzed. Ryan's response appeared on the screen. "What things? What men?" Dante smiled, a predator's smile. "There he is." He typed a response. "Can't say over text. Too risky. Need to see you. Tomorrow, noon, the park where we used to take Mila." The response came quickly. "How do I know this is really you?" Elena's turn. Dante handed her the phone. She typed, "You gave Mila Mr. Whiskers for her 3rd birthday. You said every princess needs a brave knight to protect her. Please, Ryan, I'm scared." A long pause. Then, "Okay, noon. Come alone." Dante took the phone back and powered it off. "Done. Tomorrow, we end this." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He moved toward the door. "Rosa will show you to your room. Get some sleep. You'll need it." "Sleep? You think I can sleep after everything that's happened?" Dante paused at the door, looking back at her. "You're going to have to learn, Elena. Because tomorrow is only the beginning. Ryan has made enemies of some very dangerous people. Bringing him in solves one problem. But the others won't simply disappear." "What are you saying?" His expression was unreadable. "I'm saying that text you sent didn't just start a war. It put you in the middle of one that's been brewing for months. And now, whether you like it or not, you're a player in a game where the stakes are life and death." He opened the door, then looked back one final time. "Welcome to my world, Elena Marin. I suggest you learn the rules quickly." "You're absolutely right. I apologize. I didn't include the specific end beat from the outline. Let me add a revised ending to Chapter 2 that incorporates the dramatic moment you specified." Chapter 2. The Men in Black. Revised ending. Everything remains the same until after Dante says, "I suggest you learn the rules quickly." Then continue with, The door closed behind him, leaving Elena alone in the study. She stood there, trembling, trying to process everything that had happened. Her house, the gunfire, Mila's terrified face, the text that had destroyed everything. She moved to the window, pulling back the heavy curtain to look out at the grounds. More black SUVs were arriving, their headlights cutting through the darkness. Men emerged, all armed, all moving with military precision. Dante's army, mobilizing. A soft knock at the door made her turn. It was Anton, his expression grim. "Mrs. Marin, Mr. Romano needs you. Now." "What? Why? What's happened?" "They found us. Eleanor's blood turned to ice. Who? Everyone. She followed Anton through the mansion's corridors at a near run, her heart hammering. They emerged onto a side terrace where Dante stood with several of his men, all of them armed, all of them watching the tree line beyond the estate's walls. "How many?" Dante was asking. "At least 3 groups," one of the men reported. "Petrov's people on the north side, Chen Wei's crew to the east. We're still identifying the third." "They're not attacking," another man said. "Just watching." "They're waiting," Dante corrected, his voice cold. "Waiting to see what we do next. Waiting for Ryan to show himself." He turned to Elena, his dark eyes blazing. "This is what you don't understand. That text didn't just reach me. It reached everyone. And now they're all here, circling like sharks." As if to punctuate his words, the distant crack of gunfire echoed through the night. Not close, but close enough. Shouts in Russian, more gunfire. "They're fighting each other," Anton observed. "For now," Dante said. "But eventually they'll realize the real prize is inside these walls." Elena's voice came out as a whisper. "Mila is safe. For now." Dante grabbed her arm, forcing her to look at him. "But this ends tomorrow. When Ryan shows up at that park, we take him, we get the drives, and we negotiate a peace before this entire city burns." "And if something goes wrong? If they find out about the meeting?" "Then we adapt." His grip tightened. "But make no mistake, Elena. You're in this now, all the way. There's no going back, no running, no hiding." More gunfire erupted, closer this time. An explosion lit up the night sky somewhere beyond the estate walls. A car bomb, Eleanor realized with horror. The war Dante had warned her about wasn't coming. It was already here. Dante pulled her close, his face inches from hers, his voice low and deadly serious. Blood from a cut on his temple, she hadn't even noticed when he'd gotten it, traced a thin line down his jaw. Behind him, smoke from the distant explosion drifted across the grounds like a funeral shroud. "You're coming with me tomorrow," he said, his tone brooking no argument. "To the meeting, to face Ryan. Because you just declared war, lady." His eyes burned into hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You don't get to walk away now." Elena wanted to protest, wanted to argue, wanted to scream that she'd never asked for any of this. But as another explosion rocked the night and automatic gunfire chattered in the distance, she realized the truth. It didn't matter what she'd asked for. The war had come, and she was standing at the center of it. Dawn broke over the Romano estate like a reluctant witness, pale light creeping across manicured lawns, still scarred by the previous night's violence. Elena stood at the window of the guest room Rosa had prepared, watching as Dante's men worked to erase evidence of the skirmish. Spent shell casings collected, damaged hedges trimmed, blood-stained gravel replaced. By noon, no one would know a battle had been fought here. The efficiency was terrifying. Behind her, Mila slept in the enormous four-poster bed, finally peaceful after Dr. Varon's examination. The doctor had arrived at 3 a.m, a composed woman in her 50s with gentle hands and a leather medical bag that looked older than Elena. She'd checked Mila's fever, listened to her lungs, and prescribed antibiotics without asking a single question about the bullet hole in the bedroom window or the armed guards outside the door. "She'll be fine," Dr. Varon had said, packing her instruments with practiced efficiency. "The fever's breaking. Keep her hydrated and let her rest." Then, meeting Elena's eyes with unexpected kindness, "Children are resilient, Mrs. Marin. More than we give them credit for." Eleanor had wanted to ask how many frightened children the doctor had treated in this house, but the answer seemed too terrible to hear. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Rosa entered carrying a tray laden with coffee, fresh pastries and fruit arranged with the kind of care that suggested someone still believed in normalcy here. "You should eat," Rosa said, setting the tray on the small table near the window. "Mr. Romano wants to see you in an hour. You'll need your strength." "Does he always get what he wants?" Eleanor asked, not bothering to hide her bitterness. Rosa's expression was unreadable. "In this house? Always. But that's not always a bad thing, dear. The alternative would be much worse." She smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her dress. "I've worked for the Romano family for 20 years. I've seen good men and monsters. Dante Romano is complicated, but he keeps his word. If he says you and your daughter are under his protection, you are. Even if that protection comes with strings attached? All protection does." Rosa moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I've never seen him bring someone here who wasn't either family or absolutely trusted. The fact that you're in the East Wing, not the basement, means something." She left before Eleanor could ask what the basement was for. An hour later, Anton appeared to escort her to Dante's office. The walk through the mansion's corridors felt longer in daylight. She could see the expensive art, the antique furniture, the layers of wealth and power built over generations. This wasn't just a criminal's hideout. This was an empire. Dante's office was on the second floor, overlooking the grounds through floor-to-ceiling windows that somehow managed to feel both exposed and impenetrable. He stood behind his desk, phone pressed to his ear, his back to her. He'd changed clothes, the bullet-torn suit replaced by dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Even from behind, he radiated controlled authority. Anton gestured for her to wait, positioning himself by the door like a guardian statue. "I don't care what it takes," Dante said into the phone, his voice cold. "Find the accountant. Check his mother's house, his gym, that girlfriend in Hoboken he thinks I don't know about. Someone knows where Ryan is hiding." Elena's breath caught. They were hunting Ryan everywhere, systematically eliminating his safe havens. "And Santiago," Dante continued. "Tell him Petrov won't stop until the files are recovered, which means we need to recover them first. I want eyes on every location Ryan's ever mentioned, every contact he's ever made." A pause. "No, we don't kill him until we have the drives. After that, he's a liability I can't afford." The casual way he discussed murder made Eleanor's stomach turn. Dante ended the call and turned, unsurprised to find her there. "Mrs. Marin, please, sit." "I'd rather stand." It wasn't a request. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. When she didn't move, Anton shifted slightly. Not threatening, just present. A reminder. Elena sat. Dante remained standing, studying her like she was a puzzle he hadn't quite solved. "Tell me about Ryan's friends, his associates, people he trusted." "I don't know them. We've been separated for almost a year. He barely—" "Tell me about when you were together then. Where did his money come from? Who did he meet with? What did he tell you about his work?" "Nothing. He said he did accounting, deliveries, random jobs. He never gave specifics." "Because he was hiding what he really did." Dante leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "Or because he was protecting you." "Ryan never protected anyone but himself." "Then why use your address as a drop point?" Dante's eyes narrowed. "Why list you as his emergency contact? Why keep you close enough to matter but distant enough to claim ignorance?" Elena's frustration boiled over. I don't know. Maybe because he's an idiot who didn't think anyone would come looking. Maybe because he knew I was desperate enough not to ask questions. Maybe because— Her voice cracked. Maybe because, even after everything, some small, stupid part of him still trusted me. The silence that followed was heavy. Dante studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I believe you. You don't know where he is. You didn't know what he stole. He moved to pour himself coffee from a silver service on the sideboard. But that doesn't change the fact that you're the key to finding him. And finding him is the only way to end this. So you're using me, just like Ryan did. I'm protecting you while using the situation to my advantage. There's a difference. He took a sip of his coffee. Ryan made you a target. I'm making you a weapon. Before Elena could respond, Anton's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. Boss, Petrov's people just hit Ryan's mother's place in Queens. She's fine, wasn't there. But they left a message. What kind of message? The kind written in gasoline and matches. Building's gone. Dante's jaw tightened. He set down his coffee with deliberate care. Petrov's getting desperate. He thinks burning Ryan's world will flush him out. Will it? Elena asked, fear creeping into her voice. Probably. Dante met her eyes. Which is why we need to get to him first, before Petrov does. Elena stood abruptly, unable to bear sitting still any longer. She moved to the window, looking out at the peaceful grounds that hid so much violence. This is insane. All of this. The guns, the cars, burning buildings, over some files? Not just files. Dante's voice was closer now. She hadn't heard him approach. Power, control, the ability to destroy your enemies before they destroy you. In my world, information is the only currency that matters. She turned to face him. And what about people? What about Mila? What about all the lives caught in the crossfire? Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or something darker. Collateral damage is unfortunate, but it's the cost of survival in this business. That's monstrous. That's reality. He didn't flinch from her accusation. I didn't create these rules, Eleanor. I just learned to play by them better than anyone else. She wanted to hate him, wanted to see only the criminal, the killer, the man who'd upended her entire existence. But standing there, close enough to see the faint scar above his eyebrow and the weariness he hid behind authority, she realized something terrifying. Dante Romano wasn't just a man. He was a storm, powerful, unstoppable, destroying everything in his path while somehow creating shelter in his wake. And she was standing at the center of it, with no idea if she'd be destroyed or protected when it finally passed. Eleanor whispered to herself, barely audible. He's not just a man. He's a storm. Dante's eyes met hers, and for a moment she wondered if he'd heard. The meeting is in 6 hours, he said quietly. I suggest you prepare yourself, because when Ryan shows up at that park, everything changes. For all of us. The revelation came from the most innocent source imaginable. Elena had returned to check on Mila, finding her daughter finally awake and asking for Mr. Whiskers with the single-minded determination only a 4-year-old could muster. Rosa had cleaned the stuffed rabbit, removing the soot and grime from their escape, and placed it on the dresser. When Eleanor handed it to Mila, a faint sound made her freeze. Beep, 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 so soft she almost missed it, a rhythmic pulse coming from inside the toy. What is that? Eleanor whispered, pulling the rabbit back from Mila's reaching hands. Mommy, that's mine! I know, baby. I just need to check something. Eleanor's fingers found a seam along the rabbit's back, a section that had been opened and restitched, the thread slightly different from the original. Her blood ran cold. "Rosa," she said, her voice tight. "Get Anton. Now!" 5 minutes later, Dante's office had become a makeshift war room. Anton stood at the desk with a tactical knife, carefully opening the rabbit's seam, while Dante watched with an expression carved from granite. Elena stood behind them, her arms wrapped around herself, dreading what they'd find. The first item Anton extracted was a small GPS tracker, still blinking its faint signal. "Son of a bitch," Anton muttered. "This is how they found the house so fast." They'd been tracking this toy for weeks. But he wasn't done. His fingers probed deeper into the stuffing, and he pulled out a small waterproof pouch. Inside were 3 USB drives, each no bigger than a thumb. The room went absolutely silent. Dante picked up one of the drives, holding it up to the light like it was a live grenade. "How long has your daughter had this rabbit?" Eleanor's voice came out strangled. "Ryan gave it to her for her 3rd birthday, 14 months ago." 14 months. Dante's laugh was bitter. "He's been planning this for over a year, hiding my data in plain sight, in the one place no one would ever think to look, in his own daughter's toy." "I don't understand," Eleanor said, though part of her did. The sick, terrible part that was beginning to comprehend just how calculated Ryan's betrayal had been. Dante moved to his computer, inserting one of the drives. Files began populating the screen. Spreadsheets, encrypted documents, photographs, wire transfer records. He clicked through them with increasing tension, his jaw tightening with each new revelation. "This isn't just my operation," he said finally. "This is everything. Names, locations, offshore accounts, shipping routes for 6 different families across 3 countries. If this gets out—" He didn't finish. He didn't need to. "How bad?" Anton asked. 15 years of carefully built infrastructure. Gone. Dozens of people arrested or killed. A power vacuum that would tear this city apart." Dante's fingers curled into fists. "And evidence that could put me away for 3 consecutive life sentences." Elena felt sick. "That's what Ryan was selling." "All of that. To the highest bidder, yes. Petrov, Chenwei, probably others we don't even know about yet." Dante turned to face her. "Your ex-boyfriend didn't just betray me, Elena. He betrayed entire organizations. He started a war that could cost hundreds of lives. And he hid it in my daughter's toy." The words tasted like ash. "He used Mila. He put a target on her back and didn't even—" Her voice broke. Rosa appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Romano, we have a problem. Building security just picked up 3 separate surveillance teams outside the estate. They're all watching, waiting." "For Ryan to show," Anton said. "They must know about the meeting." Dante's expression darkened. "Or they're waiting to see if we have the drives. If word gets out that we recovered them here." He looked at Elena. "They'll assume you had them all along. That you've been working with Ryan from the start." "But I didn't know. I swear I didn't." "I know." Dante's voice was surprisingly gentle. "But they won't care about the truth. They'll only care about revenge." He picked up the rabbit, examining the careful stitching that had hidden such devastating cargo. "Ryan's smarter than I gave him credit for. He knew I'd search his apartment, his car, his girlfriend's place. He knew I'd track his movements, monitor his accounts. But who searches a child's stuffed animal?" Anton cleared his throat. "Boss, we need to make a decision. The meeting is in 4 hours. Do we still go through with it? Or do we use these drives to negotiate peace with the other families?" "If we negotiate, Ryan walks, Dante said. He gets away with starting this war, putting a child in danger, destroying everything I've built. And if we go to the meeting with everyone watching, it becomes a bloodbath, Anton countered. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying Elena with those intense, dark eyes. What do you want? Elena blinked, surprised. What? Ryan is Mila's father. Whatever I decide affects her for the rest of her life. So I'm asking, what do you want me to do? Eleanor looked at the rabbit lying dissected on the desk, at the drives that had turned her daughter into an unwitting courier, at the tracker that had led killers to their door. She thought of Mila's nightmares, her tears, the way she'd flinched at every sound since the attack. She thought of Ryan's empty promises, his neglect, his willingness to sacrifice his own child for money. He used your daughter, Dante said quietly, watching her face. Not just as a hiding place, as insurance. He knew no one would suspect a child, knew that if things went wrong, Mila would be the one in danger while he stayed safe. He paused. You want justice? Help me get it. Eleanor met his eyes, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt absolutely certain of something. Yes, she said. I'll help you, whatever it takes. Dante nodded slowly, a ghost of satisfaction crossing his features. Then we go to the meeting. We bring Ryan in, and we end this. He picked up the drives, holding them carefully. But first, we make copies. Insurance of our own. He looked at Anton. Contact Santiago. Tell him to prepare for a full confrontation. If the other families want a war over this, we'll give them one. As Anton left to make the call, Elena stood alone with Dante in the office. The weight of what she'd just agreed to settled over her like a shroud. I never thought I'd be helping a crime boss hunt down my daughter's father, she said quietly. And I never thought I'd be trusting someone who texted me by mistake. Dante's lips curved into something almost like a smile. Life is full of surprises. Elena looked out the window at the armed men patrolling the grounds, at the surveillance teams watching from beyond the walls, at the beautiful, terrible world she'd stumbled into. He used my child, she whispered, more to herself than to Dante. Yes, Dante replied, and now he'll answer for it. 3 days passed in the gilded cage of Dante's estate, each one blurring into the next with a surreal quality that made Eleanor question what was real anymore. Mila adapted with the frightening resilience of childhood. By the second day, she was running through the mansion's corridors, playing hide-and-seek with Rosa in rooms larger than their entire former house. By the third, she was sitting on Anton's lap in the security room, watching him cycle through camera feeds while he taught her to count in Italian. Uno, due, tre, Mila repeated, her small finger pointing at each monitor. Brava, Anton said, his scarred face softening in a way Elena suspected few people ever witnessed. You're a natural. Elena watched from the doorway, her heart aching. This shouldn't feel normal. Armed guards and surveillance cameras shouldn't be her daughter's new reality. Yet here they were. And Mila was laughing, really laughing, for the first time since the attack. She's resilient, Rosa said, appearing beside Elena with her usual quiet grace. But children adapt faster than we think. It's the adults who carry the weight. Is that supposed to comfort me? It's supposed to remind you that surviving isn't the same as living. Rosa handed her a cup of tea. You've been surviving for a long time, dear. Maybe it's time to start living. In a crime lord's mansion? Surrounded by killers? Rosa's smile was sad. I've seen worse prisons built by respectable people. At least here the bars are visible. That afternoon, Anton found Elena in one of the estate's many sitting rooms, staring at her phone. On the screen was a news article about a fire on Maple Street, her street. The photo showed the charred remains of her house, yellow police tape fluttering in the wind. Everything gone. Her furniture, her photos, Mila's baby clothes she'd saved, the quilt her grandmother had made, all of it reduced to ash and memory. She didn't realize she was crying until Anton cleared his throat. "The meeting is tomorrow," he said awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with emotional displays. "Boss wants you prepared. I'm supposed to go over the plan with you." "The plan where I help you trap Ryan?" Her laugh was bitter. "I know the plan, Anton. I betray the father of my child. Simple." "He betrayed you first," Anton said quietly. "And your daughter. Don't forget that." "I haven't." Eleanor wiped her eyes roughly. "But that doesn't make this easier." Anton shifted his weight, then surprised her by sitting down in the chair across from her. "I've worked for Mr. Romano for 8 years. You know what I've learned? In this world, there are people who use others and people who protect them. Ryan used you, used Mila. That's not love, Mrs. Marin. That's cowardice." "And what about Dante? What is he doing?" "Protecting you, in his way." Anton stood. "It may not look pretty. It may not feel gentle. But you're alive. Your daughter is alive. And tomorrow, when Ryan shows up, you'll see exactly what kind of man your ex really is." He left her alone with her grief and her guilt. That evening, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She wandered the mansion's halls, moving like a ghost through shadows and silence. She found herself in what appeared to be a library, floor-to-ceiling books, leather chairs, a fireplace that radiated warmth against the night's chill. She pulled out her phone, looking again at the photo of her destroyed home. Hot tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. "Can't sleep either." Eleanor startled, turning to find Dante in the doorway. He'd changed from his usual suit into dark jeans and a simple black shirt, looking younger somehow, more human. "I'm fine," she said, quickly wiping her face. "You're crying in my library at 2 in the morning. That's not fine." He entered the room but kept his distance, moving to pour himself a drink from the bar. "Want one?" "No." He nodded, then did something that surprised her. Instead of leaving or pressing the issue, he simply sat down in the chair across from her, not speaking, not demanding, just present. They sat in silence for several minutes, the only sound the crackling of the fire. "I had photos," Elena finally said, "of Mila as a baby, my grandmother's recipes written in her handwriting, my mother's jewelry, costume stuff, nothing valuable, but it was hers." Her voice broke. "All gone." "I know," Dante said quietly. "Do you? Do you know what it's like to lose everything? To have your entire life erased because of one stupid mistake?" "Yes," he said, his voice carrying a weight that made her look up. "I do." Something in his expression, a flash of old pain, carefully hidden, made her believe him. "This is your fault," she said, but there was no heat in it, just exhaustion. "You and your world, your wars and your codes and your violence. Normal people get caught in the crossfire and you just keep going." "You're right." His agreement surprised her. "We do. Because stopping means dying, and I'm not ready to die yet." "How noble." "I never claimed to be noble, Eleanor." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees.
I am what this world made me, a survivor who learned to thrive in darkness, but don't mistake me for someone like Petrov.
Don't confuse protection with predation. What's the difference? She demanded. You both kill. You both destroy. You're both willing to sacrifice innocent people for power. Dante's eyes hardened. The difference is I don't hide behind children. I don't use innocence as shields or weapons. Ryan put Mila in danger. Petrov would exploit it. I'm trying to end it. By using me to trap him. By giving you the chance to face him, to get answers, to see exactly what kind of man fathered your daughter. He stood, setting down his untouched drink. Tomorrow you'll understand, and then you can judge me all you want. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About your home, your photos, the life you lost. He looked back at her. If I could have prevented it, I would have. But you can't turn back time. No. His smile was grim. None of us can. We can only move forward. The question is whether we do it as victims or survivors. He left her alone with the fire and her thoughts. Elena sat there for a long time, wrestling with everything she felt: anger, grief, fear, and something else she didn't want to name, something that whispered Dante Romano was right, even if she hated admitting it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her heart stopped as she read the message. You're safe because of me. Don't trust him. Then another. Ryan. Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. How did he get her new number? How did he know where she was? A third message appeared. I'm watching. I'll come for you. Both of you. Just hold on. Elena's breath came in short gasps. Ryan was out there, watching, waiting, and tomorrow she was supposed to lead him straight into Dante's trap. She looked toward the doorway where Dante had stood moments ago, then back at her phone. You're safe because of me. Don't trust him. But which him was Ryan referring to? Himself? Or Dante? Eleanor stared at Ryan's messages until her vision blurred, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of her wanted to respond, to demand answers, to scream at him for what he'd done. Another part, the part that had loved him once, that had built a life with him, wanted desperately to believe there was an explanation that would make sense of the nightmare. Her phone rang. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. She answered before she could think better of it. Eleanor, God, Eleanor, are you okay? Is Mila safe? His voice was raw, urgent, so familiar it made her chest ache. Safe? Are you serious right now? Her voice shook with fury. My house is burned down, Ryan. There were men with guns. Mila was... she could have died. I know, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this. You used our daughter. The words exploded out of her. You hid stolen data in her toy. You made her a target. Silence. Then, quietly, how did you find it? So it's true. The confirmation somehow made it worse. It's all true. Everything Dante said. Dante? Ryan's voice sharpened. You're with Romano? Elena, you have to get away from him. He's dangerous. He'll use you to get to me, and then... Then what? Kill me like you nearly did by dragging us into your mess? She was pacing now, her free hand clenched into a fist. You don't get to play concerned father now, Ryan. Not after what you did. I had no choice. His desperation bled through the phone. Petrov, he has people everywhere. He found out I was working for Romano, said if I didn't get him that data, he'd kill you and Mila. I was trying to protect you. By hiding evidence in our daughter's stuffed animal? That's protection? I thought if the data was with you, Romano wouldn't look there, and Petrov wouldn't either. It was supposed to be safe, Elena. I was going to get it back before anyone knew. But they did know. They all knew. And now we're targets. That's why you have to meet me. I can fix this. I have a way out. For all of us. You, me, Mila. We can disappear. I have money, contacts, a place set up. Stop. The word came out cold. Just stop lying. I'm not... The phone was suddenly plucked from her hand. Dante stood behind her. So silent in his approach, she hadn't heard him. He held the phone to his ear, his expression carved from ice. "Ryan Cole," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Still making promises you can't keep, I see." Eleanor could hear Ryan's sharp intake of breath even from where she stood. "Romano, if you hurt them, you're not in a position to make threats." Dante's eyes never left Elena's face as he spoke. "But I'm willing to make a deal. You want to save Elena and Mila? Meet us. Tomorrow, noon, the old Riverside Warehouse District." "That's a trap." "Obviously, but it's also your only option. Because right now, every organization in this city is hunting you. How long do you think you'll last alone?" Dante paused. "But if you bring what you stole, all of it, every copy, I'm willing to negotiate safe passage for your family." "Why would I trust you?" "You wouldn't. But you'll come anyway, because you know what Petrov will do if he gets to them first." Dante's smile was sharp. "Noon tomorrow. Come alone, or don't come at all." He ended the call and handed the phone back to Elena. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "You just told him where we'll be. He'll bring Petrov, or worse." "He'll come alone," Dante said with certainty, "because despite everything, Ryan Cole loves himself more than anything else, and he thinks he's smart enough to outmaneuver me. And if you're wrong, then we adapt." He moved toward the door. "Pack light for tomorrow. We leave at dawn." "Wait, you're bringing me?" Dante turned back, his expression unreadable. "He won't come unless you're there, and I need him to come. This ends tomorrow, Eleanor, one way or another." After he left, Eleanor sank onto the bed, her head in her hands. Nothing made sense anymore. Ryan claimed he was protecting them. Dante claimed he was using them. Both men were dangerous, both had their own agendas, and she was caught between them, with Mila's life hanging in the balance. "Mummy?" Elena's head snapped up. Mila stood in the doorway connecting their rooms, Mr. Whiskers clutched to her chest, now emptied of its deadly cargo and restitched by Rosa. "Baby, what are you doing up?" "I heard yelling." Mila's lower lip trembled. "Are you and the man fighting?" "We're just talking. Come here, sweetheart." Eleanor pulled her daughter onto the bed, wrapping her in a hug. "Is he the bad guy?" Mila asked, her voice small. "The man with the nice house?" Eleanor opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. Was Dante the bad guy? He was a criminal, yes, dangerous, absolutely, but he'd also saved them, protected them, shown unexpected moments of humanity. And Ryan, the man she'd once loved, the father of her child, had used them both as pawns in a game that could have killed them. "I don't know, baby," Elena finally whispered. "I honestly don't know." The next morning, Eleanor found Rosa in the kitchen, preparing breakfast with her usual quiet efficiency. "You're going with him today?" Rosa said, without looking up from the eggs she was whisking. Not a question. "Yes." "Be careful." Rosa finally met her eyes. "Mr. Romano is many things,
But he's not a liar. If he says he'll protect you, he will. But protection in his world comes with a price. What price? Rosa was quiet for a moment, then said softly,
The truth never saves anyone in Dante's world, Elena. It only burns slower. She turned back to her cooking, leaving Elena alone with those chilling words as armed men began loading weapons into vehicles outside, preparing for war. Dawn broke cold and grey over the Romano estate, the kind of morning that felt like an omen. Elena stood at the bedroom window watching Dante's men load equipment into the convoy of black SUVs, weapons cases, communications gear, body armor, preparing for war. Behind her, Mila slept peacefully, finally too exhausted from nightmares to wake at every sound. Rosa had promised to stay with her, to keep her safe while Elena walked into whatever hell waited at that warehouse. A soft knock drew her attention. Dante stood in the doorway, dressed in tactical black, a Kevlar vest visible beneath his jacket. He looked every inch the dangerous man he was. "We leave in 20 minutes, he said. "Are you ready?"
No, Elena answered honestly, but I don't think I ever will be. He entered the room, moving to the window beside her. You don't have to come. I can use the meeting to draw Ryan out without you there. He won't come if I'm not. You said so yourself. I know, but I'm giving you the choice anyway. Dante's eyes met hers. Despite what you think of me, Elena, I don't force innocence into battle. I stopped being innocent the moment I sent that text. No. His voice was firm. You stopped being naive. That's different. They stood in silence, watching the sun struggle to break through heavy clouds. Elena found herself studying his profile. The hard line of his jaw, the shadows under his eyes that suggested he'd slept as poorly as she had. How many people have you lost? She asked quietly. In your line of work? Dante was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, too many. 14 men over the years. Each one my responsibility. Each one a weight I carry. Do you regret it? Any of it? Every day. The admission seemed to cost him. But regret doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring them back. It only reminds you why you have to win. And if winning means becoming the thing you're fighting against? Dante turned to face her fully. Then you make sure you're fighting for something worth losing yourself over. His hand moved as if to touch her face, then fell away. Don't lose yourself to vengeance, Elena. Make Ryan face justice, yes. But don't let his betrayal turn you into someone you're not. Why do you care? The question came out softer than she intended. I'm just leverage to you. A way to get what you want. You started as leverage, he corrected. But 3 days of watching you piece yourself back together, of seeing you comfort your daughter while your own world burns, of witnessing your strength. He shook his head. You're more than leverage now. Then what am I? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. It's time. The moment broken, they descended to the waiting convoy. In the garage, organized chaos reigned. Anton supervised the loading, his commands sharp and efficient. Vincent Russo, his younger brother and one of Dante's trusted soldiers, checked weapons with methodical precision. Other men moved with practiced coordination, each knowing their role. Elena felt out of place among all this lethal efficiency, a civilian in a world of soldiers. Mrs. Marin? Vincent approached, his boyish face serious. He couldn't have been more than 25,
with none of Anton's weathered hardness. "You'll ride in the middle vehicle with Mr. Romano. Stay low if things go wrong. We'll protect you." "Thank you," Elena managed. Vincent nodded and moved away, but not before she caught something in his expression. Guilt, maybe, or fear. It vanished so quickly she thought she'd imagined it. Dante appeared at her elbow. "In my vehicle. Now." She climbed into the SUV, finding herself in the spacious back seat beside Dante. Anton took the front passenger position, while a driver she didn't recognize took the wheel. As they pulled out, Elena watched the estate disappear behind them. Rosa stood on the steps with Mila in her arms, both of them waving. Elena's heart clenched. "She'll be safe," Dante said, reading her thoughts. "I have 12 men on the estate. Nothing will get through." "You can't promise that." "No," he admitted. "But I can make the attempt cost more than anyone's willing to pay." The drive took them through the city, away from residential areas toward the industrial district by the river. Abandoned warehouses lined the waterfront, relics of a time when this area thrived. Now it was perfect for the kind of meeting where violence was expected. "Tell me about Vincent," Elena said suddenly, remembering that flash of guilt. Anton turned in his seat. "My little brother. Why?" He looked, "I don't know."
"Nervous?" "Everyone's nervous before a potential firefight," Dante said. "It keeps you sharp." But something nagged at Elena. The way Vincent had avoided eye contact, the tension in his shoulders, Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She showed it to Dante, who nodded permission for her to check. "Come alone, or Mila pays the price." Petrov. Elena's blood turned to ice. "Oh God! Oh God! No!" Dante snatched the phone, reading the message. His expression went from calm to murderous in a heartbeat. "How did Petrov get her number? This is a new phone, completely secure." "Boss." Anton's voice cut through, his own phone pressed to his ear, his face ashen. "We have a problem. Estate security just reported multiple breaches, east and west perimeters. They're coordinated, professional." "How many?" "At least 20, maybe more." "They knew exactly where the blind spots were, where the—" Anton stopped, his eyes widening. "They had inside information." Dante's hand moved to his gun. "Who?" "I don't know, but—" Anton's phone rang again. He answered, listened, and Elena watched all color drain from his face. "Hang on. Say that again." The silence that followed was deafening. When Anton looked up, his eyes were filled with anguish. "Vincent. They tracked his phone. He's been in contact with Petrov's people for 3 days. The last call was 15 minutes ago, right before we left." Elena felt the world tilt. "He sold us out," Anton whispered, his voice breaking. "My brother sold us out." "They're not coming for the warehouse, boss. They're going for your house. They're going for the girl." Dante's roar of fury was primal. "Turn around. Now!" But even as the driver spun the wheel, tires screaming, Eleanor knew the terrible truth. They were too far away. And Mila was alone. The SUV careened through city streets, sirens wailing as Dante's driver pushed the vehicle beyond legal limits. Elena gripped the door handle, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. "Faster!" Dante commanded, his phone pressed to his ear. "Rosa, lock down the panic room. Get Mila inside and don't open it for anyone except me. Anyone. Do you understand?" Elena could hear Rosa's calm response even from where she sat, but the words were drowned out by the thunder of her own pulse.
They were 20 minutes away, 20 minutes that felt like eternity. "Boss," Anton said, his own phone lighting up with incoming messages. "Estate security reports Petrov's team has breached the south wing. They're fighting through, but there's too many. They're heading for the east wing where Mila is." Eleanor finished, her voice hollow. Dante's jaw clenched. "How many men do we have left on site?" 8. Maybe 9 if Rodriguez is still standing. "Against 20? Eleanor's voice rose toward hysteria. We have to call the police. Call someone. Mila can't." "The police can't help," Dante said, his voice hard. "By the time they arrive and figure out what's happening, it'll be over. Our only chance is getting there first." His phone rang. A number he clearly recognized. He answered, his expression darkening further. "Ryan!" The name came out like a curse. Elena lunged for the phone, but Dante held it away, his other hand restraining her gently but firmly.
"Where's my daughter?"
Eleanor screamed loud enough for Ryan to hear.
"What did you do?"
Ryan's voice came through, tinny and desperate. "I'm trying to fix this. I told Petrov I'd bring him the drives if he left you alone." "You told him where to find us!" Dante roared. "You led him straight to my home, to your daughter." "I didn't have a choice. He was going to kill me. I thought if I gave him the location I could—" "Could what? Negotiate? Petrov doesn't negotiate, you fool. He takes what he wants and leaves bodies behind." A pause. Then Ryan's voice, smaller. "I didn't know Mila was there. I thought Eleanor would be at the warehouse meeting. I thought—" "You didn't think," Dante cut him off. "You never do. That's why we're in this mess. Let me help." Ryan's desperation bled through the phone. "I'm at Elena's house. The old one. I found something, fragments of the data, backup files I hid in the walls. If I give them to Petrov, maybe he'll kill you anyway," Dante said flatly. "But it doesn't matter, because I'm going to kill you first." He hung up. Elena stared at him. "My house? He's at my house?" "The burned one," Anton confirmed, checking his tablet. "Satellite shows heat signatures. Multiple people. Ryan's there, but he's not alone." Dante's eyes narrowed. "Petrov split his forces. Some at my estate, some at Eleanor's house. He's hedging his bets. If the data isn't in one location, it's in the other." "So what do we do?" Elena demanded. "Mila is at your estate. Ryan is at mine. We can't be in both places." Dante made the decision in seconds. "Anton, take half our convoy to the estate. Get Mila out. Use the underground tunnels if you have to, but get her somewhere safe. What about you?" "I'm going to Elena's house. I'm ending this with Ryan once and for all." "Boss, that's an order." Dante's voice was steel. "Go. Now." The convoy split at the next intersection, 3 SUVs peeling off toward the Romano estate, while Dante's vehicle and 2 others roared toward Maple Street. Toward Eleanor's destroyed home. Toward Ryan. The neighborhood looked like a war zone in daylight. Yellow police tape still fluttered around the perimeter of Eleanor's property, but no officers were present. The house itself was a blackened skeleton. Walls collapsed. Roof caved in, windows empty sockets staring blindly at the street. And in the driveway, 3 black sedans. Not Dante's, not the police, Petrov's men. "They beat us here," the driver muttered. "Then we go through them," Dante said. Checking his weapon with practiced efficiency, he looked at Elena. "Stay in the vehicle. No matter what happens, stay." "No." Elena's voice was firm. "That's my house, my life that burned, and Ryan is my problem. I'm going in." "Elena, you don't get to protect me from this," she said. "Not anymore. I'm done being the victim. I'm done watching other people fight my battles."
Something flickered in Dante's eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. He handed her a small pistol. "Do you know how to use this?" "Point and shoot?" "Close enough. Stay behind me. Don't hesitate if you need to fire." They exited the vehicle, Dante's remaining men fanning out in tactical formation. The burned house loomed before them, smoke still rising from charred timbers, the smell of destruction thick in the air. Gunfire erupted before they reached the front door. Petrov's men had been waiting, positioned in the ruins with clear sightlines. Bullets tore through the air, sparking off concrete, thudding into the SUVs behind them. Dante returned fire with lethal precision, each shot carefully placed. His men moved with military coordination, providing covering fire as they advanced toward the house. Elena ran behind Dante, her heart in her throat, the gun heavy in her hand. This was insane. She was a mother, a struggling waitress, not a... A man appeared from behind a collapsed wall, his weapon swinging toward them. Elena raised her gun and fired. The recoil shocked her, the noise deafening. The bullet went wide, but it was enough. The man dove for cover, and Dante's shot found him a second later. "Keep moving!" Dante shouted, pulling her through what used to be her front door. Inside, the destruction was total. Her kitchen table, where she'd sent that fatal text, was now charcoal and ash. The living room where Mila had played was an open pit of burned floorboards. Everything Elena had owned, every memory, reduced to nothing. And in the center of it all, standing in what used to be Mila's bedroom, was Ryan Cole. He looked terrible, gaunt, unshaven, his eyes wild with fear and desperation. Blood stained his shirt from a wound Elena couldn't see. In one hand, he held a gun. In the other, a USB drive. "Elena," he breathed. "Thank God. I thought they'd—" "Shut up!" The words came out cold, foreign to her own ears. "Just shut up, Ryan." His eyes widened, seeing not the woman he'd manipulated, but someone harder. Someone changed. "I can explain." "Explain what?" Elena advanced, her gun steady despite her shaking hand. "Explain how you used our daughter, how you hid stolen data in her toy, how you brought killers to our door." "I was trying to protect you. If I'd left the data anywhere else, they would have tortured me for it. But if it was with you, if Mila had it, I knew Romano wouldn't—" "You knew I wouldn't hurt a child," Dante said, stepping into view, his weapon trained on Ryan. "You gambled that my conscience would protect what yours should have." Ryan's gun hand trembled. "Stay back. I swear I'll—" "You'll what? Shoot?" Dante's laugh was cruel. "You're a coward and a thief, Ryan. But you're not a killer. You don't have it in you." "I do." Ryan's voice cracked. "I will if I have to." Outside, the gunfire intensified. Shouts in Russian. More of Petrov's men converging on the house. "They're coming," Dante said calmly. "And when they get here, they'll kill all of us and take that drive. Is that what you want?" "I want my family safe," Ryan screamed. "I want what I deserve." "You want money," Elena said quietly. "You've always only wanted money. Even when I begged you for child support. Even when Mila was sick. Even now, when she could die because of what you've done. That's not fair." "Fair?" Something inside Elena snapped. "You want to talk about fair? You abandoned us. You lied to us. You used our daughter as a pawn in your schemes, and now you're here, holding the thing that started this war, and you still think you're the victim." Movement outside. Shadows approaching through the ruins. Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression tightening. Anton reports Mila is secure. She's alive, Eleanor. Scared, but alive. The relief nearly brought Elena to her knees. Thank God. No thanks to you, Dante said to Ryan. Your daughter is safe despite you, not because of you. Ryan's face crumpled. I never meant for any of this. I just wanted a better life for us. For all of us. Then you should have been a better man, Eleanor said. A voice called out from the ruins, Russian-accented, commanding. Ryan Cole! Dante Romano! You have 10 seconds to surrender the drives, or we burn what's left of this house with all of you inside. Dante cursed. They brought accelerants. They're going to torch the place. Elena's eyes fell on something in the corner, partially buried in ash, somehow survived the first fire. Mr. Whiskers, the rabbit she'd grabbed in their initial escape, the rabbit that had held such devastating secrets. Rosa had restitched it after removing the drives. But Elena suddenly remembered. Ryan had said backup files, fragments in the walls. If he'd hidden data in the walls, had he hidden it elsewhere too? She moved before she could think, diving for the rabbit, her hands closing around singed fabric. Elena, what are you? She ripped open the seam Rosa had so carefully repaired, and there, wedged deep in the stuffing where the original drives had been, she found a micro SD card, smaller than the USB drives. Easy to miss. You made copies, she said, staring at Ryan. Even after you stole the originals. You made copies and hid them everywhere. Ryan's expression confirmed it. Insurance. In case Romano found the drives. In case Petrov double-crossed me. In case you needed one more bargaining chip, Dante finished, his voice lethal. How many copies? That's the last one, I swear. The drives I gave Petrov, the one I'm holding, and that card, that's everything. Outside, the countdown continued. 5 seconds! Elena looked at the micro SD card in her hand, looked at Ryan, pathetic and desperate, looked at Dante, cold and dangerous, looked at the ruins of her life surrounding them, and made her choice. She threw the rabbit, card and all, into the still smouldering fireplace. The fabric caught immediately, flames consuming it with hungry eagerness. No! Ryan lunged for it, but Dante caught him, slamming him against the wall. What have you done? Ryan screamed at Elena. That was worth millions. That was our way out. That was the thing that nearly killed our daughter, Elena said, her voice steady. That was the poison you brought into our lives, and I just burned it. She raised her gun, pointing it at Ryan's chest. His eyes widened. Elena, please. I'm Mila's father. You stopped being her father the moment you used her. Eleanor's finger moved to the trigger. You ruined everything, Ryan. Our family, our home, our lives. You did that. Not Dante, not Petrov. You. Eleanor, wait! She fired. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Ryan crumpled, clutching his leg where the bullet had struck, his gun clattering away. Not a kill shot, but not mercy either. That's for Mila, Elena said. For every night she cried for you, for every time she asked why Daddy didn't love her anymore, for every single thing you destroyed. Outside, the Russians had gone quiet, probably confused by the gunshot. Dante spoke into his comm. Light them up. All positions. Now! The response was immediate, a barrage of gunfire from Dante's reinforcements who'd been moving into position. The Russians scattered, their attack broken. Dante grabbed Ryan by his collar, dragging him toward the exit. You're coming with me. You're going to tell Petrov, tell Chenway, tell everyone that the data is gone, burned, worthless. And then you're going to disappear.
and if I ever hear your name again, I'll finish what Elena started." "The drive!" Ryan gasped through his pain. "I still have the USB." Dante ripped it from Ryan's hand and crushed it beneath his boot. "Not anymore." Fire erupted outside. The Russians had made good on their threat, lighting accelerants they'd placed around the perimeter. Flames raced up the remaining walls, hungry to finish what they'd started days ago. "We need to go," Dante said. "Now!" He hauled Ryan toward the exit while Eleanor followed, stepping through the ruins of her old life. Behind her, the house, her prison, and her home burned for the second and final time. As they emerged into the yard, Petrov's remaining men were in full retreat, Dante's forces having turned the tide. The Russian mob boss himself was nowhere to be seen, probably fled the moment his advantage disappeared. Dante threw Ryan into the back of an SUV and turned to Elena. His face was smudged with soot, his eyes blazing with adrenaline and something else, something almost like pride. "You shot him," he said. "I did. In the leg, not the heart." "I wanted him to feel it," Eleanor said. "Wanted him to remember what it costs to betray the people who love you." Dante studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're not the same woman who texted me by mistake." "No," Elena agreed, watching her house collapse in on itself, flames reaching toward the sky like judgment. "I'm not." The battleground had become her liberation, and standing there, smoke-stained and fierce, Elena Marin finally understood. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was a survivor. Dawn crept over the Romano estate with the tentative softness of something afraid to be seen. The sky bled pink and gold, painting the grounds in colors too gentle for the violence that had scarred them just hours before. Repair crews had already begun their work, replacing shattered windows, patching bullet-pocked walls, erasing evidence of the siege that had nearly destroyed everything. Eleanor stood on the balcony of her guest room, wrapped in a blanket against the morning chill, watching the estate transform. Behind her, through the open door, Mila slept peacefully in the enormous bed, Rosa sitting vigil in a nearby chair. The little girl had cried herself to exhaustion when Eleanor finally returned, clinging so tightly it left marks. But she was alive, safe, whole. That was all that mattered. "Beautiful morning," a quiet voice said behind her. Elena didn't turn. She'd learned to recognize Dante's presence, the particular weight of his footsteps, the subtle shift in air when he entered a room. "Is it?" "Relatively speaking." He joined her at the railing, 2 coffee cups in his hands. He offered her one. "You should try to sleep." "Can't." Eleanor accepted the cup, grateful for its warmth. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the fire. The guns. Ryan's face when I shot him." "Regret?" "No." The answer came quick and certain. Satisfaction, maybe. Justice. But not regret. They stood in silence, sipping coffee as the sun climbed higher. In the east wing, workers hauled debris from damaged rooms. In the garden, groundskeepers replanted flowers destroyed in the firefight. Life continuing despite death's proximity. "Ryan's in a safe house," Dante said eventually, "under guard until his leg heals. Then he'll be relocated." "Relocated?" Eleanor's laugh was bitter. "Is that what you call it?" "He gets to live, Elena. More mercy than he deserves, but you didn't kill him, so I won't either." Dante's jaw tightened. "But he'll disappear. New identity, new life, far from here,
And if he ever tries to contact you or Mila again, he won't. Somehow, Eleanor knew that with certainty. Ryan was many things, but he wasn't stupid. He'd seen what she'd become, what she was capable of. He wouldn't risk it. Petrov pulled back. Dante continued. With the data destroyed and no way to verify Ryan's claims, he's cut his losses. The other families are following suit. The war's over. Just like that? Just like that. Dante turned to face her fully. Which brings us to you. Eleanor finally met his eyes. What about me? You have choices now. Real ones. Dante set his cup on the railing. I have contacts, the best forgers, identity specialists, relocation experts. I can give you and Mila new names, new backgrounds, new lives. Set you up anywhere in the world with enough money to never worry again. Clean break. Fresh start. And the other option? You stay. The words hung between them, weighted with implication. Under my protection. In my world. You've seen what that means. The violence, the danger, the constant threat. But you'd be safe. Mila would be safe, and you'd never be powerless again. Eleanor looked out over the estate, this fortress of wealth and danger that had become her refuge. She thought about her old house, now ashes, her old life, now memories. The woman she'd been, now gone forever. That desperate mother at the kitchen table, sending a text in rage and exhaustion. She felt like a stranger now, someone weak, someone small. Elena Marin wasn't that woman anymore. If I disappear, she said slowly, I'll always be running, looking over my shoulder, waiting for the past to catch up. That's the price of safety. Is it? She turned to face him. Or is it the price of fear? Dante studied her, his dark eyes searching. What are you saying? Elena took a breath, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her like armor. I'm saying I'm tired of being afraid, tired of being the victim, tired of letting men, whether it's Ryan or Petrov or anyone else, decide my fate. She stepped closer, holding his gaze. You told me once that I had to choose between being a victim or a survivor. I chose survivor, and survivors don't run. Survivors also don't walk willingly into the line of fire, Dante said. But there was something in his voice, approval maybe, or recognition. Maybe it's time I stopped running, Elena said, the words feeling right as she spoke them. Final. True. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying her face as the sunrise painted them both in gold. She could see him reassessing, recalculating, seeing not the frightened woman who'd opened her door to him, but someone harder, someone forged in fire, someone who'd shot her ex-boyfriend and burned the evidence that started a war, someone who'd survived. Then you stay, he said softly, and there was something almost reverent in his tone. Under my protection. And what does that protection cost? Elena asked, because she'd learned. Nothing in Dante's world was free. Loyalty, Dante said simply. Trust. The understanding that my world doesn't forgive mistakes or betrayal. I've already betrayed Ryan. What's one more line crossed? This is different. Dante's hand moved to her face, his thumb tracing the curve of her cheek with unexpected gentleness. This is choosing the darkness willingly, accepting what that makes you. And what does it make me? His smile was sad. Mine. The word should have frightened her, should have sent her running to pack bags and flee to whatever new life he'd offered. But standing there, the sun rising on a world that had tried to destroy her and failed, Eleanor felt no fear, only certainty. Then I'm yours, she said. And in the room behind them, as if blessing the decision, Mila stirred and whispered,
Mummy,
Elena turned, moving to her daughter's side.
I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Are we staying?
Mila asked sleepily. Elena smoothed her daughter's hair, looked back at Dante standing in the doorway, dangerous, powerful, and somehow, against all logic, safe. Yes, Elena said, we're staying. The text message had started a war. But standing in the aftermath, choosing her fate instead of having it chosen for her,
Eleanor understood something profound. Sometimes you have to burn your whole life down to rebuild it stronger. And from the ashes of who she'd been, Eleanor Marin rose as someone new. Someone who belonged in Dante Romano's world. Someone who'd claimed it for herself.
One text destroyed my life, but maybe it built something stronger, something worth fighting for.
the text message had started a war. But standing in the aftermath, choosing her fate instead of having it chosen for her, Elena understood something profound. Sometimes you have to burn your whole life down to rebuild it stronger. And from the ashes of who she'd been, Elena Marin rose as someone new. Someone who belonged in Dante Romano's world. Someone who'd claimed it for herself. She'd sent a text to the wrong number. But maybe, just maybe, it was the right number all along. If you were captivated by Eleanor's journey from desperate single mother to a woman who stood toe-to-toe with the Mafia, don't forget to like this story and subscribe for more thrilling tales of danger, romance, and redemption. Will Elena and Dante's alliance survive the darker threats lurking in the shadows? Will Ryan return for revenge? And what new enemies will emerge now that Eleanor has chosen to stay in the underworld? Hit that notification bell and stay tuned for the next chapter in Elena and Dante's story. Because in the world of organized crime, peace never lasts long. Drop a comment below. Did Elena make the right choice? Would you have stayed or run? Until next time, remember, sometimes the wrong text message can lead you exactly where you need to be.